All right, duelists, let's get into it. Today, we're not just talking about a strategy. No, we're diving into a true art form. We're going to move past all the explosive combos and the big beatdown monsters to explore the subtle, the calculated, and yeah, the often misunderstood world of the stall deck. Look, this isn't just about surviving. It's about taking absolute, total control of the duel and mastering the most powerful weapon you have, time itself. So let's begin this masterclass.
This right here, this single idea, is the absolute heart of everything we're going to talk about today. It's a whole philosophy. It teaches you that victory doesn't always go to the fastest player, but to the most resilient. This is some high-level, strategic dueling, and you know what? We're about to break down exactly how it works.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll nail down the core concept of control. Then we'll get into the winning philosophy you have to pilot these decks. After that, we'll look at the specific cards that build your fortress, figure out how to keep it fueled up, and finally, we'll cover the advanced techniques and training drills that'll take you from being just a curious player to a true defensive master.
Okay, let's start with the absolute foundation. A real stall strategy isn't passive. It's not about just hiding behind a wall and, hoping your opponent gets tired and goes home. No way. It's an active, calculated strategy designed to dictate the entire pace and flow of the duel. Think about it like this. You're the conductor of an orchestra. Your opponent, they might have some really powerful instruments, but you decide the tempo. You decide when things speed up, when they slow to a crawl, and ultimately, you decide when the music stops.
So what is a stall deck at its core? Well, it's really built on these three pillars. First, patient defense. This means building a board that's so tough it can just weather any storm. We're talking cards that stop attacks or just flat out negate effects. Second, resource denial. This is the active part, where you stop your opponent from even getting to their key cards. You break up their combos before they even start. And third, buying time. All this defense and disruption, it serves one single purpose: to keep you in the game long enough to put together a very specific and usually unstoppable win condition. It's a complete flip of the usual beatdown script.
Now listen up, because this is probably the most crucial part of all. Piloting a stall deck requires a complete mental shift. I mean it. If you go into a duel just thinking, I gotta survive, you've already lost. Your goal isn't to delay losing, it's to guarantee your opponent's defeat. You're not the defender who's just reacting to their threats. You are the controller. You set the terms of engagement, and you force them to play the game on your turf, by your rules.
And this slide just illustrates that difference perfectly. Your opponent, they see you setting cards and passing your turn. They think you're scared, right? That you're just trying to hang on, maybe gain a few life points. But what you're actually doing is so much more methodical. You're denying them resources, making their big combo starters totally useless. You're forcing inefficiency, making them waste powerful hand traps on plays that go nowhere. You are baiting them into a game where their deck just stops working. Every do-nothing turn is a carefully laid trap, and with each one, the noose gets a little bit tighter.
So the key takeaway here is this: the lockdown itself is just a tool. The real victory, the real win, comes when your opponent has burned through every possible out in their deck. You've baited out their spell removal, you've survived their biggest monster, and now they're just top-decking with no options left. Their defeat becomes an inevitability, a mathematical certainty. And it's not because your lock was theoretically unbreakable. It's because you expertly made them break themselves trying to get through it.
All right, let's get tactical. We've got the philosophy down. Now let's look at the hardware. Building a truly impenetrable fortress takes specific tools, and each one has its own unique defensive job. These are the bricks and mortar of your entire strategy. These are the components you're going to use to build your opponent's prison.
And honestly, there is no better example of a modern lockdown tool than Mystic Mine. Its power is in its simplicity. If your opponent controls more monsters than you do, they just can't activate monster effects or declare an attack. That's it. But just controlling fewer monsters, you can neutralize entire strategies, turning your opponent's whole board of powerful boss monsters into a field of really expensive, useless statues. It's a card that can single-handedly invalidate some of the best decks in the game.
But look, a single card is never enough. A true fortress has multiple redundant layers of defense. You start with the classics, attack prevention like Gravity Bind or Threatening Roar to just stop the battle phase cold. You back that up with some high DF walls that are super hard to get over in battle. Then you gotta protect those crucial spells and traps with cards like Dark Bribe to negate their removal. And finally, you top it all off with powerful floodgates like Skill Drain, which just shut down monster effects all across the board. See? Each layer forces your opponent to have a different kind of answer, stretching their resources impossibly thin.
Which brings us to a beautiful, really elegant modern example of an invincible wall, the crooked cook strategy. It is so simple, it's brilliant. Step 1, summon this one monster. Step 2, make sure it's the only card you control. And then, its own effect makes it unaffected by everything else. It can't be destroyed by battle, it can't be targeted, it can't be wiped out. Your opponent could have a field full of 5,000 ATK monsters and they are completely, utterly helpless. And with your life points totally safe, you are free to just sit back and wait for them to run out of cards.
And that's the real beauty of it. Your win condition can be whatever you want it to be. You aren't just limited to decking them out. You could play Final Countdown, a slow but super reliable path to victory. You can use Wave Motion Cannon to slowly but surely burn away their life points. You could even use all that time your fortress buys you to assemble the 5 legendary pieces of Exodia. This versatility is what makes stall so dang unpredictable. Your opponent has no idea how you plan to win until it's way, way too late.
Okay, so you have your fortress, you have your win condition. But how do you find all the pieces? And how do you keep it all running? A fortress without supplies is going to fall eventually. This is where resource management, and specifically your draw engine, becomes the key skill that separates the good players from the great ones.
You absolutely need cards that let you dig through your deck for answers. Pot of Duality lets you find out one specific piece you need, but it costs you your special summon. Card of Demise, on the other hand, can refill your entire hand late in the game, giving you this huge resource advantage. But this is a very delicate high-stakes balancing act. Using these cards means you can't special summon, which can limit your defensive options. Drawing too much with Demise might leave you with no hand at all at the end of the turn. Every single activation is a calculated risk. You have to constantly ask yourself, do I need an answer right now more than I need flexibility for my next turn?
Now that we've covered the cards and the resource management, let's get to the final level, the psychological discipline and the tactical foresight that you need to pilot these decks at the highest level. This is where you truly become a master of control. You move beyond just playing cards and into the realm of playing the opponent themselves.
These are what I like to call the 4 pillars of a master stall duelist. The line denier doesn't waste resources stopping every little play. They find the one critical choke point in their opponent's combo and they stop that. The sequencing surgeon knows the absolute perfect moment to flip a trap for maximum impact. The pressure absorber is totally comfortable sitting at 100 life points because they know their board is secure. And finally, the emotional icebox plays with cold, calculated discipline, never letting the opponent's big, flashy plays cause them to panic and make a mistake. This is a perfect, practical example of the sequencing surgeon at work. An amateur player sees the opponent summon a monster and immediately they flip skill drain. A master waits. They let the opponent commit more cards to the field, use more resources from their hand, build up their entire board, and then, right before they can use any of those effects to win, that's when you flip the trap. You haven't just stopped their play, you've made them waste half their hand and their entire turn in the process. That is surgical precision.
And this is the question you have to constantly be asking yourself. Answering this one question correctly turn after turn is the very essence of mastering not just stall decks, but the entire game of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's that razor-thin difference between a good play and a game-winning one. Whew! We have covered a tremendous amount of theory. But, theory is nothing without practice. So let's wrap this up with some actual, actionable steps, some practical drills you can use to start applying these concepts and begin your own path to defensive mastery. Here are 3 drills that will absolutely forge you into a defensive powerhouse. First, out-counting. Before a match, just mentally list every single card that can break your lock, and then play the entire game as if your opponent has it in their hand. This forces you to play more cautiously and builds discipline. Second, play their deck. Seriously, the best way to learn how to beat an aggressive combo deck is to play it yourself. You'll find its choke points and weaknesses firsthand. And finally, review your losses, not your wins. Find the exact turn where you lost control. Stall is a game of precision, and just one tiny misstep and unravel your entire plan. Your job is to find that misstep and learn from it.
Let this be your mantra. In a game that is so often defined by just explosive power and raw aggression, always remember that there is an equal and maybe even a greater strength to be found in perfect, unshakable defense. It's a celebration of tactical precision, of foresight, and of the mental fortitude to withstand anything your opponent can possibly throw at you.
And so we end with this question. In a world that prizes speed above pretty much everything else, could it be that the most powerful tool in a duelist's arsenal is simply the ability to wait, to endure, and to outlast?
The duel awaits. Go find out.